Hello, listeners, and welcome to the first ever episode of DNA Film Wars, a podcast where we discuss movies, movie news, and conduct weekly movie reviews. My name's Aaron, and I'm joined by my co-host Dylan.
Howdy.
And today we are going to do a little introduction to our podcast. I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about myself. My first name's Aaron, as I said. We live in rural Oklahoma, and I'm a full-time college student at the prestigious university of the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. How about you, Dylan?
So as he said, my first name is Dylan. I am 19 years of age, going on 20. I am not currently in school, but I will be going back to school next semester. But I currently work full-time almost at a local movie theater. So movies are kind of part of my daily routine.
All right, Dylan. So, where did you first learn that you love movies?
So I can probably say that the first movie I ever remember seeing in theaters, one of the first at least, is probably Spy Kids 3D. Came out in 2003. I remember seeing that movie. I actually remember seeing it in 3D with the little paper glasses they used to give you for 3D. My first true film experience that I ever remember really enjoying was probably Batman Begins in 2005, and I really vividly remember that day. I was with my grandmother who lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex at the time, and she gave me an option to go see a Rangers baseball game, which we did quite often when I was a kid, or we could go see Batman Begins, and I chose Batman Begins, and that's where my true love of film probably started for me. How about you?
Yeah, my first memory of seeing a movie in theaters is Spider-Man 2. I believe that came out in 2004. I still love Spider-Man 2, and when I was a kid, I just really loved it. I loved everything about it. And then another really vivid memory is the next year when Revenge of the Sith came out. I remember like waiting in lines that stretched out the door to the theater for like 2 hours to go see that movie. And of course, I love Star Wars, even the prequels. So that really started me on a path to really loving movies.
Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and discuss our title a little bit. So the name DNA Film Wars, where does it come from? So obviously my name's Dylan. His name's Aaron. That's where the DNA part comes from. The Film Wars is where we had a hard time coming up with the rest of the title because we went through a lot of stuff coming up for this, but we wanted to settle on something that was going to be memorable and a little bit unique, but also kind of derivative of a movie, so we settled with Film Wars because, Star Wars and film.
And I want to remind the listeners that everything we're about to say is subject to change.
Absolutely.
So as far as our format goes, what we are planning as of right now, we're going to have at least 2 weekly episodes. One episode, we're going to do a discussion where we talk about topics related to the movie that we plan on reviewing that month. We'll give a weekly top 5, also related to whatever movie we're reviewing that week, I'm sorry. And we'll also talk about the big movie news of that week, such as trailers, movie announcements, project announcements, directors being signed on to projects, etc. And also we plan on in the future going back and reviewing old movies, like for example for the Star Wars film coming out in December of 2019. We plan on once a month going back and reviewing every Star Wars movie that's being released theatrically up until then, which we'll probably start that in January. So, Dylan, why don't you tell us a little bit about our rating scale?
All right, so our rating scale, we wanted to come up with something that was funny and original, that wasn't like everyone else's. And we also wanted to make it a little bit derivative of a movie. So Aaron over here decided to come up with a rating scale based on Clint Eastwood's legendary film, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So we have a grading scale of good, bad, and meh. So the way that rating scale is going to work is we will review movies based on 3 topics of acting, story, and the production value, which will include the directing, the cinematography, as well as, like, say, the score and stuff like that. So the overall production value. So we'll give those each their individual scores, and then we'll have an overall score of good, bad, or meh.
All right, so I think we pretty much covered everything relating to our podcast content. So to give the listeners kind of an idea of how we think when it comes to movies and everything, why don't we go ahead and tell them our top 5 films, starting with number 5. Dylan, why don't you go ahead?
All right, so starting off my list at number 5, I'm gonna go with Perks of Being a Wallflower. I don't know if many people have seen this. I mean, I'm sure quite a few have seen it, considering the fact that it's based on a young adult novel. But I've always really liked the film. It's got a great story, and it's about, it's kind of a coming of age story, set in the 80s, and it's always been a good time. And every time I watch it, I just really enjoy it, and it's made me open my eyes up to some things in my life. So just really enjoy it. Well, let's go ahead and go with your number 5, Aaron.
Yeah, so at number 5, I actually have the original John Carpenter's Halloween. It's definitely my favorite slasher movie, probably my favorite horror movie. And I just love the way John Carpenter took a $300,000 budget and turned it into a masterpiece.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the score, the directing, the way that Michael is just kind of in a bunch of frames in the background, and you may or may not notice him, the way sometimes he just kind of fades into view. The acting is hit and miss, but Jamie Lee, for her first performance, does a pretty good job. But I just love that movie. I can watch it over and over. How about your number 4?
All right, so my number 4, I'm gonna go with a classic of Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of Harrison Ford's titular characters of Indiana Jones. What can I say about this movie? George Lucas and Steven Spielberg together created what I would consider one of the greatest films of the 80s time frame. It is truly awesome, and it's a great time, and definitely helped put Harrison Ford in the place that he is today, and I don't know where we'd be without him.
All right, for my number 4, I'm gonna go with the original Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien. It's really an amazing piece of sci-fi. The way that you don't really ever see you very rarely see the creatures, except for maybe at the end. Ridley Scott just builds tension, and Sigourney Weaver, her breakout performance. I mean, everything about that movie is just great. And some would argue that Aliens is as good or better, but I just don't think you can beat the original.
Absolutely. So coming in at my number 3, I'm gonna go with possibly the greatest sequel of all time, Empire Strikes Back. Not only is it a great Star Wars film, it's a great sci-fi film, it's a great film in general. The way the story is written is amazing. The fact that the first movie was made for such a low budget, and the effects that George Lucas put into that movie to help create an entire universe that we have now is crazy. And the fact that the sequel is better than the original just blows my mind, and it will always be my favorite Star Wars film.
All right, coming in at number 3 for me. This is where I'm gonna really nerd out. I got Gojira, or better known here in the States as Godzilla, as my 3rd favorite film. It's the original Godzilla film. Is it cheesy? Is it dated?
Oh yeah, it is.
Yes, it is. I won't deny it. But I really think it's a great commentary on post-war Japan, the fear of nuclear weapons and all that. And the soundtrack, I really enjoy it. I just love Godzilla. I've loved Godzilla for as long as I can remember, and that first movie, I just really love it.
All right, so coming in at my number 2 is gonna be The Breakfast Club. Not necessarily the greatest movie ever, but it's one of my absolute favorites of all time. It is 100% without a doubt my favorite 80s film. The cast is great. I mean, we got Molly Ringwald and Emilio Estevez and a lot of other people in that movie, and it's just a great time. Also, another coming of age story about a group of people, all with their own specific clique and group that they belong to, that all come together and become great friends over one Saturday in detention. It's just got some great memorable lines in that movie, and a lot of other great things, as well as the Simple Minds song at the end of the film that just tops it off.
All right. Well, at my number 2, I have Empire Strikes Back. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Empire is by far and away the best Star Wars movie out there. So, it's an obvious choice. The score that John Williams wrote for that film is just amazing. George Lucas handed off the directing reins, probably, for the best, to someone else. I think it's just overall, it's just a great film, and I just love everything about it.
Absolutely. All right, so to cap off my list at number one, I have to go with The Dark Knight. What all can I say about this movie? Chris Nolan, probably his greatest achievement in film. Not only is it a great Batman film, it's also a great crime drama and detective thriller. It's a great time. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker is one for the ages. Don't know if anyone will ever be able to top that. We can sure try and hope for the best with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker coming up, but nothing will ever touch Heath Ledger's Joker and Chris Nolan's direction in that movie. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go Dark Knight number one. It is by far and away the best superhero movie made. No superhero movie comes close.
Absolutely not.
It works as a crime drama. It works as a Batman movie. The performances from both Heath Ledger and Christian Bale are great. Not to mention Morgan Freeman, probably my favorite actor of all time. And the rest of the cast. It's just an amazing movie, and so that tops off my list as well.
Absolutely. All right. So the next thing we're going to discuss to give you a little bit more insight about who we are, since we already discussed our top 5 films, we're going to go ahead and talk about our top 5 favorite franchises, and we'll let Aaron kick that off with number 5.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dark Knight trilogy actually as my number 5. The first film, Batman Begins, it's great. The second film, obviously, as I just discussed, it's better. The third film, Dark Knight Rises, it suffers from a bit of a drop off, but it's still the best film that DC has come out with since 2012. So,
some would argue that Wonder Woman is better, but
not me.
Right.
We may talk about that film one day, but not me. I'm gonna go with the Dark Knight trilogy as my number 5. How about you?
All right. So for my number 5, I'm gonna go with an animated classic, and I'm gonna go with the Toy Story trilogy. John Lasseter and Pixar and what they did with those 3 films and how spaced out they are is absolutely amazing. Every time I see those characters on screen, it just brings me back to, which I'm not super old, but it brings me back to my childhood. And I remember always enjoying watching those movies, and just everything about them is great. The cast, the storyline that overarches throughout all 3 films and everything about it, and even Randy Newman's music for the movie is just great. So,
yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I'm gonna go with Toy Story number 4. It's the first computer animated film. I remember watching it over and over and over again. I love all 3 films. The way that they were able to maintain the quality from the first film to the third film is just amazing. And even Randy Newman's "You've Got a Friend in Me." It's not a great song. I'm not going to argue that it is, but for some reason I always tear up a little bit when I hear it. So.
All right. So coming in at number 4 on my franchise list, I'm gonna go with Harry Potter. See, kicking off the first of the Harry Potter films in 2001 with the Sorcerer's Stone, known in England, and the book is Philosopher's Stone. It's a great time, all the way up through even the Deathly Hallows Part 2. The entire storyline, though I've not read the books, I've always really enjoyed, and the underlying tone of the good versus evil fight that spans the entire franchise is absolutely amazing. Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson in those movies is just it's a trio that you gotta love, and their performances in those movies are a fun time, and I'll always enjoy watching those movies every time I put them on. So
at number 3, I've got the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the reason I have it at number 3 is it's amazing that 19 films in, and it is every film in that franchise is serviceable. Even the worst film, Thor: The Dark World, works as a somewhat entertaining superhero movie compared to, say, the DCEU, where there's one entertaining movie out of that. Maybe
you could say 2.
You could say 2, maybe. So it just and there's some great films in there. I look at the first Avengers film. I look at the Winter Soldier. I would throw in Infinity War. There's some truly great films in there. So that's why I have MCU as my number 3.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I'm gonna go with my number 3 as the MCU. What else can be said that you haven't already said? The fact that we're 19 films in and we haven't had a truly bad film yet is truly amazing. I'd say some of my standouts in the MCU have definitely got to be top overall is going to be the Winter Soldier. Not only is it a great standalone movie outside of the MCU, it is without a doubt probably my favorite Captain America movie and my absolute favorite MCU movie. Other standouts, definitely the first Avengers, definitely Infinity War. And I definitely got to praise Jon Favreau and Iron Man, the first Iron Man that came out in 2008 that kicked off the MCU. Because where would we be with superhero movies nowadays without that one and Robert Downey Jr. in the leading role? So that's got to be my number 3 is the MCU.
All right. Yeah, number 2 I'm gonna go with Star Wars. I love the Star Wars franchise. Probably the first film that I was ever taken to theater to see, I don't remember it obviously, was probably The Phantom Menace. My dad took me when I was like, I'd have been about a year and a half. Wow. And my younger brother Adam, he'd have been about 6 months. He drove both of us to the old mall trio to go watch that movie. And I know there are some down films in there. The Last Jedi was an absolutely steaming pile of garbage.
It wasn't that bad, but we'll talk about that another time.
We'll talk about that another time. But I just love the old. There's nothing like hearing John Williams music for those films and seeing those lightsabers ignite. And I mean, it's just amazing.
Absolutely. So coming in at my number 2, I'm gonna go with the Dark Knight trilogy. I had to put it at my number 2 because I got one more to top it, but my number 2 is definitely the Dark Knight trilogy. What we've already said about the Dark Knight trilogy is completely amazing. The fact that Chris Nolan made such a gritty and raw and grounded in reality Batman trilogy is really, really amazing. Took it to new levels, and starting off with that first movie in 2005 with Batman Begins was a great story. Seeing him become Batman from his younger days in Gotham to training with what we come to find out is Ra's al Ghul later in the movies. Training with him in the League of Shadows to become who he is and be Batman, and then come back as the Caped Crusader in Gotham, and expanding that over into The Dark Knight when he meets up with Heath Ledger's Joker for the first time in one of the greatest movies, I'd say, probably of all time. And then capping it off with The Dark Knight Rises in 2012 and Tom Hardy's performance as Bane. No matter what people say, I enjoy it. The voice gets me every time, though. I'll always enjoy those movies, and it's got to be my number 2.
Yeah, so at number 1, I'm gonna go with the Godzilla franchise. Like I said,
such a nerd, aren't you?
Yes, I am an obsessed fanboy. You know, we are 32 films in, and I have to say that I can sit down and enjoy every one of them. There are some really terrible movies in there, and they are all cheesy. But I think there are some really good gems in there too. I'm not going to suggest everybody go and seek these out because they're not for everybody. I'm not going to. But I just love it. Like I've loved it for as long as I can remember, and I'm going to continue to be an obsessed fanboy till the day I die.
All right, so coming in at my number 1, I'm going to go with the Star Wars movies. I don't know what else I can say about these movies that hasn't already been said. They're truly, truly great. I got to thank George Lucas for somewhere in his weird mind coming up with the story that these movies became, and helping and having people help him put it to film and showing it to people on the big screen. It was definitely a struggle for him to get that first movie made, and I'm glad that he was able to get it made, and we are where we are today. Like Aaron said, there are some rough ones in there. I mean, I gotta say that Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, though not the best, are still enjoyable to a degree, and even The Last Jedi I can enjoy to a degree. It's not as bad as Aaron thinks it is, but it's not the best.
It's bad.
So,
all right. Well, so this is going to be a pretty short episode, actually. I promise that in the future they will be longer. Speaking of the future, so for our upcoming content, we plan on releasing our first discussion episode
Next week on Tuesday, hopefully, we're gonna try to do a
Hopefully.
little bit of discussion about the Halloween films leading up to Halloween next weekend.
Actually, it'd be this week on Tuesday.
This week on
'Cause it's
Tuesday. That's fair
Sunday.
because it is Sunday. That's fair. We're gonna talk about the Halloweens. We're gonna try to rank them, give our views and opinions on them, and we might have a couple other top fives in there that we'll talk about. So, what else we got coming up next week, Aaron?
Yeah, so like you said, that weekend our first film is going to be this new Halloween movie. I am super excited. Like I said, we're both huge fans of the Halloween
Super
franchise.
stoked.
After that, I believe our second film is going to be.
What we got coming out the week after that?
What did I say we got coming out?
I don't know
after
what's
that?
coming out the week after that,
I
Aaron.
totally blanked. I have a schedule made up and everything. Well, we'll talk about that our next episode probably. So, I just want to thank everybody who downloaded this for listening, and I hope you'll stay with us and tell your friends about us. Got anything else to add?
Just want to say that this is going to be a truly awesome experience if you'll join us on this ride. I think everyone will have a great time with us, and we hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. So everyone have a great day.
Yep.